So in Black Ops 6, we have more control over the in-game HUD than we have ever had before in any of the previous entries, with almost every element on screen being customizable to some extent, and 10 different presets that completely change the layout. And so today, as somebody who is very picky about video game HUDs, I wanted to rank these 10 presets based on how good they are in zombies. But just to clarify before we get started, hit markers, damage numbers, and health bars are not tied to the presets, and however you have them set will carry over across all of them. So if you're wondering why you're not seeing them and why I'm not bringing them up, it's because I hate them and I turn them off. Also, I found that it can be a little glitchy to switch between these presets, so it is possible that I got a few details wrong, and if so, I apologize in advance. Anyway, let's get right into it. In last place at number 10, it's basically a tie between standard and inverted. Standard being the default preset, and inverted being identical, but with everything on the left and right sides being flipped, with the exception of Gobblegums. These two do give you all of the information that you are intended to have, but I just think it's too much with stuff in all four corners of the screen, medals across the top, perks along the bottom, and then text running right down the middle. Sure, you can disable most of this, but that can be kind of annoying to do, especially if you want it all back on for multiplayer. At least inverted has a couple of cool things going for it, like the points being on the right side of the screen just like in the original games, and the round counter being in the top left, like in Black Ops 4. But other than a little nostalgia, I don't really see why people would run this one over standard. Plus, a few parts of this HUD, like the ammo, objectives, and player info, just sort of look out of place on the opposite side of the screen, which is why inverted is going to get the number 10 spot, and standard will win spot number 9, but only by a little. For number 8, I decided to put Central Command. This preset is certainly interesting. Your ammo and equipment tabs are shrunk down a little bit and moved up by your crosshair. The minimap is put in the bottom center of the screen, which does overlap with the boat icon on Terminus, and your perks are up at the top, right underneath the horizontal compass. Although, strangely, the score streak icon stays in its usual spot, and power-ups have been shifted over to the right. The purpose of this preset is so that you can check on these important elements of your HUD without looking too far away from the center of your screen, where presumably all of the action is going to be taking place. In fact, this is something that you can see done in plenty of other games. Now, in multiplayer, where taking a split second to check your ammo could actually matter, this preset might actually be good to use. But I just don't see it being as important in zombies. Maybe during a boss fight, but that's about all I could think of. I would rather just have the center of my screen be clear, but I still think it could be fun to use such a bizarre HUD, where everything is in such wacky positions, even if some of these elements are not very well designed to be in the center of the screen. But once the novelty wears off, I don't really see myself using this one very much. At number 7 is Mission Interface, which is very similar to standard, but it gives you a square minimap for extra coverage, a horizontal compass, and most notably, it puts the round counter in the middle of the screen. Now, I don't really care for the minimap in zombies to begin with, and I certainly don't think that it needs to be bigger. I don't care very much for the compass either, but it is better than a minimap. However, I do kind of like that centered round number. I could see this preset being pretty popular with people going for high rounds that want to put their progress front and center, especially on a live stream. It just sucks that the round number is over the other medals and notifications, so it would have been nice if it turned those off for you. Though as cool as I think this preset can be, it is still a pretty minor change, and I doubt that there are going to be many people who care enough to use it, so it's going to stay pretty low on the list. Number 6 is going to go to Scout. This preset takes the minimap and a horizontal compass and puts them at the bottom of the screen. Your player information is shifted over to the right to make some space, and the perks above the compass are scaled down a bit. I imagine that the purpose of this preset is to clear up the top of the screen so that if you are playing as a scout, you can have an unobstructed view of the landscape. For multiplayer, it works pretty well. All that would be up at the top is the kill feed, which isn't very obstructive, and then the medals, which only pop up when you get a kill. And as a fan of Halo, I do kind of like the minimap in the bottom left. But for zombies, if this preset is trying to move everything down, then it doesn't do a very good job. You still have your objective and the round number up there, and medals are going to be popping up far more frequently. Though to be fair, the objective is only temporary, and the medals can be disabled, but even then, I don't think the bottom half of this HUD looks very good. All the information is just too condensed for my liking. The player info and the score streak icon even overlap a little bit with the compass. Turning the compass off does help a bit, but if you want to disable the minimap too, then it leaves a weird gap on the side of the screen. I know I sound pretty critical of this preset, but I do appreciate how it tries to clean up the HUD. It's just that other presets can do it better. Number 5 is going to be Target Tracker, which is the better version of Scout. The minimap is now scaled down, changed to the radar variant and then put in the center. To make space, the perks have been shifted over to the left, and the power-up icons have also been scaled down, which does make it nearly impossible to read the timer, but you could live without it. Although, in all honesty, the power-up icons should have looked like this on Central Command, and this preset should have had them shifted over to the right. Anyway, the reason I'm putting this one ahead of Scout is because I think the layout of everything on the bottom is a lot cleaner. Some people may not like where the minimap is, but I think it looks kinda cool above the compass. I also just like the radar variant of it, which you can turn on whenever you'd like, but this is the only preset that uses it by default. It still shows you where things are, but it doesn't give you the exact layout of your surroundings, so you can't rely on it as much to find your way around. Though if you do want to turn it off, this HUD still looks good without it. At number 4 is Magnified, which is the same as the standard HUD, but with the minimap, player info, and equipment all scaled up. As far as I can tell, everything else remains the same size, including the score streaks. The only other thing of note is that the perks were moved over to the left so that there's no overlap with the stuff on the right. Now, I could go on about how this preset is a good accessibility option for anyone who might have vision problems, or how it could be helpful for people on smaller screens or something like that, but with how small the text is on this HUD, anybody could make use of this preset. I mean, I like my HUDs as small and as far out of the way as possible, but I could see myself using this one from time to time just so I don't have to strain my eyes to see how many points I have. I would just turn off some of this other stuff and it would be just fine. We are in the top 3 now, and to start things off, we have Redacted, the preset that completely disables everything except for objectives, power-up notifications, loot pickups, pings, gobblegums, any kind of menus like the workbench, and maybe some other stuff that I've overlooked. Playing games without a HUD makes for a much more immersive, but also more challenging experience. And while I am always happy to see this as an option, some games just don't play very well without their HUD. Thankfully, that does not seem to be the case for zombies in Black Ops 6. You can still judge your health and armor based on audio and visual cues. Most of the enemies have some kind of physical reaction to the damage dealt to them. Your points, salvage in the current round can be seen on the scoreboard, and for ammo, equipment, and perks, well, that's on you to keep track of. So far, I have done the Liberty Falls quest without any issues, and I very much intend to do Terminus as well. But despite how much I like this preset, it definitely takes more effort to play without a HUD, and most of the time I'm just going to want to play a casual match with at least something on my screen, which is why this preset is going to take number 3. The number 2 spot is going to go to Essentials. This preset is another variant of Standard, but this time with the medals, score notifications, and the crosshair being disabled. This is basically what I always wanted to do in Cold War, and I'm very happy to have it as a preset in Black Ops 6. Although I do think it would have been better if they had disabled the minimap too, but at least it's pretty easy to do that yourself. Additionally, with this preset selected, that little animation that the round number does whenever you finish a round where it moves to the center of the screen and then back to the corner, does not occur. The only real issue I have with this preset, and any other time that the score notifications are disabled, is that it's a lot harder to keep track of how many points you're earning. I mean, it's not like I'm going to sit there and do the math in the middle of the round to find out how much a Mangler kill is worth. Don't get me wrong, I'll take this over the wall of text any day, but it does make me wish that they could bring back the classic method of showing the points that you earn. For a while, Essentials with the minimap disabled was my favorite preset to use, but another one has since become my favorite. That one being Classic. Which I'm sure isn't much of a surprise. I feel like I see this one be used a lot. Like Essentials, score notifications and medals are disabled, but Classic turns off the minimap too, which I really appreciate. Actually, other than Redacted, this is the only preset that does this. And also, like Essentials, the round number does not move when you finish a round. But the main reason that I prefer this preset over Essentials is that it takes all of the remaining HUD elements and confines them to the bottom 2 corners of the screen, which not only makes it similar to the HUDs of our beloved older games, but it also makes for a very unobstructive layout, far more so than any other preset. And it's just like that by default, you don't need to modify it one bit, though you still could if you want to. However, I wouldn't say that it's perfect. I do have a couple minor issues with it, like how the objective information is not at the top of the screen like it is in other presets. The player info also looks a bit strange above the round number, and I think it would look better on the other side above the ammo and equipment, kind of like how it is in Inverted, but it would still be fitting with the Classic layout. And finally, I don't really like this gap between the round number and the perks, at least when you only have a couple. When you buy more of them, they fill in the space and it looks okay, but I would like it better if they were added from left to right just like in the older games, although changing the behavior of the HUD just for this one specific preset might be a bit much to ask for. But other than those issues, which, like I said, were minor, the way that this preset moves everything to the bottom 2 corners of the screen and turns off everything that you don't absolutely need makes it deserving of the number 1 spot on this list. And there we have it. all 10 presets ranked for Black Ops 6 Zombies. Some of them are definitely better than others, but they do all have something to offer, and I would recommend trying them all out at some point. And go ahead and let me know which ones you guys are using, both for zombies and for multiplayer.